Hi, this is Jonathan Rosenhead, a Jerusalem psychotherapist. This week's Torah and Psychology post is going to focus on the mitzvah of shikha. Shikha is a mitzvah that is established, and it says in this week's parasha that if an owner is harvesting his field and he leaves behind a small amount of his produce, it now moves over. The halacha actually creates a system where it moves from his ownership to now belonging to somebody in need, the poor person, the widow. This now creates, we could say, from a perspective of societal or institutional functioning, it creates a way that society supports and holds those who are in need. The owner who has his produce, it's now left behind. It's not deliberate or intentional in a way of giving tzedakah. It's actually saying that the halacha understands by way of the human condition, people forget things. And the mitzvah is tapping into this, that sometimes things are forgotten. And we want to make sure that by acknowledging and accepting that reality, it actually can be to the benefit of other people. The owner can't then go back and say, oh, actually, when he realizes afterwards that he forgot, when he realizes that because he's human, he left something behind, he can't go back and claim it. This small amount now belongs to those who are in need. So from a societal perspective, it's you could say a beautiful way that is being instituted through the halacha, through the Torah and the mitzvah of supporting and helping other people. But if we take it outside and we expand this from a psychological perspective, what we see is we focus on this idea of forgetting. Shikha really acknowledges this fact that people forget. People forget things. People they experience different situations, they behave in certain ways, and by way of the fact that we are human, we are not robots, and therefore we can forget certain things. And if we look at how this is really explored and researched from a psychological perspective, this really taps into the idea of trauma. Trauma is that when people experience a challenging and difficult and traumatic experience, that really puts them into a situation that is emotionally overwhelming. What the research shows is that most people are able to continue with their lives. Most people experience a difficulty which is acute at a certain time and moment and situation, but we can say they forget, or they're able to put that memory, as opposed to being in the front and center of their mind and their consciousness, it actually moves on, it goes through a process, and to a certain extent we can use the word forgetting to say that a person moves on and forgets that they were in this traumatic situation. It no longer holds them in a conscious way of something that is really affecting their life and their functioning. But in trauma, people who are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, this forgetting doesn't happen. They're not able to forget because they are stuck in that moment. In terms of the timeline of experiencing a traumatic event, moving on and allowing this process of forgetting to take place and therefore able to move into the future without being stuck and held up by the traumatic event, doesn't actually occur for people in trauma. And this timeline, this spectrum doesn't exist. They are stuck constantly. Past, present and future all just mixes up together, and they are stuck in this traumatic moment. Forgetting does not happen. And what we want to say, and we can actually try to look at from a therapeutic point of view, is a person receives the tools of being able to understand what happened and to understand that they have the ability to forget. They can't force themselves to forget. That's maladaptive to the trauma. In fact, forcing yourself to not think about it, forcing yourself to try to move on, trying to suppress the thoughts and the emotions and the memories of what happened, actually just strengthens the hold that the person is in when they are suffering from trauma, and they can't forget. They want to, but they can't. So what this mitzvah, actually shikha, is saying is that, first of all, by human condition, we can forget. We do forget. And this can actually be a positive thing if we look at it in terms of the mitzvah of shikha. But what we want to say as well is that forgetting is something that we try to embrace and acknowledge, and in a natural way this can happen even in traumatic situations with the right psychological tools, whether it's resilience, with the right resources that we have. We can embrace this forgetting and we can understand and how this can actually be beneficial to ourselves, obviously from a psychological and practical way of being able to function in our life, to understand that the therapy can help us to eventually forget, in the sense that we can move on with our life. But just in the same way that shikha is that in terms of the mitzvah is for the benefit of other people, once a person goes through trauma and they're able to actually get to this point, and we can say this functioning of forgetting, this is where the post-traumatic growth starts to happen, and you yourselves are able to move on, learn from the experience, and also it also becomes beneficial to other people. In the way this shikha of trauma becomes beneficial to other people, that you can show as an example of how to move on, how to function, how to cope with difficult situations, how to teach other people as well, based on the experiences that you've had. So shikha in a mitzvah is a technicality that we can say which applies to agriculture. But if we take it to the idea of the functioning of forgetting and how that applies to trauma, it really starts to mold into this bigger idea of psychological functioning and helping and supporting other people who are struggling as well. Have a good Shabbos and keep well.